What would India's independence movement have looked like if Mahatma Gandhi hadn't been assassinated? A thought-provoking question indeed. Let's delve a little deeper. Mahatma Gandhi, born Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, is a name that resonates with the spirit of freedom and non-violence worldwide. He was the driving force behind India's struggle for independence from British rule, championing a unique method of resistance, satyagraha, or insistence on truth. His philosophy centered around peaceful civil disobedience and passive resistance, making him a symbol of peace and tranquility in a world torn apart by wars and conflicts. Now let's ponder a hypothetical scenario. Had Gandhi not been assassinated in 1948, how would India's freedom struggle have unfolded? It's a tantalizing question, one that invites speculation and conjecture, but it's worth exploring. Gandhi's vision for India was of a united, peaceful nation, free from the shackles of oppression. He believed in harmonious coexistence of all communities and religions, a stark contrast to the communal violence that marred the partition of India and Pakistan. His emphasis on non-violence and peaceful negotiation might have significantly altered the course of events, possibly averting the bloodshed of partition. Moreover, his leadership and moral authority were unparalleled. He was a beacon of hope for millions of Indians who looked up to him for guidance and inspiration. His continued presence might have fostered a more inclusive and pluralistic society, in line with his ideals of unity and diversity. Further, Gandhi was a relentless crusader for social justice. His campaigns for the upliftment of the downtrodden, equality of women, eradication of untouchability, and economic self-sufficiency through the revival of indigenous industries might have gained further traction, leading to a more egalitarian India. However, this is all speculative. History, as we know, doesn't entertain what-ifs. Yet, it's an interesting exercise, a journey into an alternate timeline that might have been. With such a profound influence, Gandhi's untimely demise undoubtedly left an indelible mark on India's journey to independence. His absence was a loss not just for India, but for the world. A loss of a voice that championed peace, unity, and justice. The question remains unresolved, a lingering what-if in the annals of history. The path to Gandhi's assassination was paved with ideological differences and political unrest. Nathuram Godse, the man who would eventually pull the trigger, was a man deeply engrossed in the tumultuous politics of a newly independent India. An active member of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh or RSS, a Hindu nationalist organization, Godse's worldview stood in stark contrast to Gandhi's inclusive vision of a secular India. Godse's association with the RSS was not a fleeting one. Contrary to popular belief, he never severed ties with the organization, as revealed in the book Gandhi's Assassin, The Making of Nathuram Godse and His Idea of India. The book also unveils the organization's indirect link to Gandhi's assassination, a claim often downplayed due to a lack of thorough investigation. In the ideological battlefield, Godse found himself at odds with Gandhi. The seeds of this discord were sown by none other than Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, a proponent of the Hindutva ideology, which advocated for Hindu supremacy in India. This ideology, deeply ingrained in Godse, clashed head-on with Gandhi's vision of a unified India, unfettered by religious divisions. As the political unrest simmered, Godse's discontent with Gandhi grew. He blamed Gandhi for the partition of India, and believed that his policies suppressed Hindu beliefs. This resentment, fueled by the ideological chasm between them, set Godse on the path towards assassination. However, it's crucial to note that Godse's beliefs did not exist in a vacuum. They were part of a larger narrative of Hindu nationalism, which found resonance among a section of the Indian populace. This ideology continues to shape India's political landscape, with many seeing it as a threat to the country's secular fabric. The ideological clash between Gandhi's vision of a secular India and Godse's vision of a Hindu-dominant nation culminated in a tragic event. January 30th, 1948, a day that would forever change the course of India's history. This was the fateful day when the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, was assassinated. The sun had barely set when Nathuram Godse, a member of the Hindu supremacist organization RSS, stepped forward from the crowd that had gathered for Gandhi's evening prayers. In a split second, Godse fired 3 bullets at point-blank range, extinguishing the life of a man who had dedicated his life to peace and unity. The news of Gandhi's assassination spread like wildfire, sending shockwaves through a nation that had only recently gained independence. The people of India, who had looked to Gandhi as a beacon of hope, were suddenly left leaderless. The grief was palpable. Millions mourned in public squares and in private homes, their hearts heavy with the loss of a man who had become synonymous with the struggle for freedom and justice. The immediate aftermath of the assassination was characterized by a profound sense of loss and confusion. The government declared a period of national mourning, and people from all walks of life came forward to pay their respects to the man who had led them to freedom. Meanwhile, the authorities moved swiftly to arrest Godze and his accomplices, and the trials that followed would reveal the deep-seated hatred and bigotry that had fueled this act of violence. Yet, amidst the grief and sorrow, there was also a sense of resolve. People from all corners of India, and indeed the world, vowed to uphold Gandhi's principles of nonviolence and truth. They pledged to continue his fight for equality and justice, to ensure that his legacy would live on, even in his absence. The assassination of Mahatma Gandhi was not just the end of a life, but the end of an era. It marked a turning point in India's history, a moment that would irrevocably alter the trajectory of the nation's future. But perhaps most significantly, it served as a stark reminder of the destructive power of hatred and intolerance. The assassination plunged the nation into mourning and left a void that would prove difficult to fill. Gandhi's assassination sent shockwaves through the nation and the world. The tragic event left an indelible mark on the psyche of a newly independent India, shaping the course of its political and social trajectory. The immediate aftermath was one of disbelief and grief, as the nation grappled with the loss of its beloved leader. But beneath the surface, a more ominous undercurrent was emerging. The death of Gandhi, the stalwart of peace and unity, ironically gave rise to a more divisive ideology. The seeds of Hindu nationalism, which had been sown by Godze and his mentor Savarkar, started to take root. The ideology that once lurked in the shadows of Indian politics began to assert itself more boldly, bolstered by the perceived martyrdom of Godze. In the long term, this ideology has had profound implications for the fabric of Indian society. It has driven a wedge between different religious communities, inciting a wave of violence and intolerance. The rise of the Bharatiya Janata Party, the political offspring of the RSS, has been a testament to the growing influence of Hindu nationalism. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, a former member of the RSS, has been criticized for his silence on Godze and his ideology. Moreover, the veneration of Godze, as seen in the establishment of a temple in his honor, is a stark illustration of the shifting narrative. This growing acceptance of a man who was once universally condemned as a murderer is deeply troubling. The glorification of Godze and the demonization of Gandhi's inclusive vision pose a grave threat to the secular and democratic values that India holds dear. The irony is striking. While the world reveres Gandhi as an apostle of peace and nonviolence, his own country grapples with the legacy of his assassin, as a section of society venerates him as a patriot. The assassination of Gandhi was not just the death of a man, but also the death of an ideology. Gandhi's assassination marked a turning point in India's independence movement, the effects of which are still felt today. Reflecting on Gandhi's assassination and its impact, one cannot help but wonder about the course of history. The tale of Nathuram Godse, the man who pulled the trigger, is a narrative steeped in ideological fervor and controversy. His allegiance to the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, a Hindu far-right group, and his deep-seated association with Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, the proponent of Hindutva ideology, painted a picture of a man driven by a vision of Hindu supremacy. It's fascinating to ponder the paradox of a nation that reveres Mahatma Gandhi as the father of their independence, yet simultaneously sees a growing popularity of Godze among a section of its youth. This dichotomy speaks volumes about the complexities of India's socio-political landscape. The assassination was not merely a physical act of violence, but a symbolic attack on Gandhi's inclusive vision for India. It's a vision that continues to be challenged today, as the country grapples with an increasingly polarized society. The rise of the Bharatiya Janata Party, the ruling party with deep roots in the RSS, further compounds this polarization, with the government often accused of promoting division and suppressing dissent. In the face of these challenges, the legacy of Mahatma Gandhi remains a beacon of hope. His principles of nonviolence, tolerance, and unity in diversity continue to inspire millions around the world. Despite the attempts to malign and distort his vision, Gandhi's ideals persist, reminding us of the power of peaceful resistance and the importance of inclusivity. As we conclude this journey through a pivotal moment in history, we circle back to the unresolved question posed at the start. What if Gandhi had not been assassinated? How different would India's trajectory have been? These questions are purely speculative, and the answers forever lost in the realm of hypotheticals. While history doesn't provide us with what-ifs, it does offer lessons and insights. Gandhi's assassination and its aftermath certainly provide plenty for us to reflect upon.